Okay, welcome back to another episode of Live in the Studio. Today we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Rebecca Lauren. Hi, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well. Becca is our intern slash co-leader at church slash I don't know what else. We've done her album. We just did Prodigal. Corbin, her boyfriend, was my intern at church for a while. So we've certainly been in relationship with you and your family and friends for a while at this point. And we wanted to have you on the show, talk about music, talk about your background, because I think it is super unique. And even in just your music, leading from piano is different. And obviously, like, we've been here all day working on recordings and working on other episodes of the show. Becca actually did the audio editing for the first episode. She killed it. It sounds great.
Thanks.
And so, yeah, we wanted to have you on. And really, when we were talking about guests, you were either first or one of the first names that came up as like, oh, she's totally got to come on the show and do it. So welcome. How are you?
Thanks. Good. Excited to be here.
Yeah. Are you nervous?
Absolutely.
Yeah. we're still shaking the nerve thing too. Like last week, I think that's like the first thing I said was, yeah, I'm feeling it pretty. Yeah. It's a nerve wracking thing, but we talk all the time. So why is it nerve wracking? I haven't really settled yet. So for yourself, tell people about you, tell them what you do, give yourself your introduction.
Hi. So, I mean, you kind of already introduced, but my name is Rebecca Lauren, and I'm a singer-songwriter, worship leader, and as of last year, thanks to you guys, recording artist. I've been writing music since I was like 9, but doing music and been in love with music for literally ever. And so it's a blessing to be able to use that to have relationship with people like you guys, and also to build my relationship with the Lord. And that's really what my heart is for my music. So I'm excited to kind of talk a little further about that.
So let's start with that, because you already mentioned, like, you started playing, or you were interested in music at 9 or writing?
I was writing at 9, but I was a little 2-year-old that would like walk up to people in the mall and like start singing for them. So I was like that obnoxious kid. So.
What were you writing at 9? Like what's an example song here of a 9-year-old's like songwriting session?
They all sounded like VBS songs, and they were pretty repetitive.
Okay.
My very first like song that I thought was really, really good was, it kind of almost sounded like a VBS and Israel Houghton song like mixed together, and it was called God is Amazing. And that's like all the
Do you
lyrics.
know it?
I'm not gonna sing it.
She knows where I'm going.
Like, no,
stop.
No. The title is every single line.
Without asking you to do it, do you know it? Like,
I do know it.
You know that. That's cool. I don't even think I remember some of my first songs. That's a killer memory for like to be able to know stuff you wrote that long ago.
It was kind of like a core memory, because my worship leader heard it, and I was, like I said, 9 when I wrote it, and she wanted to do it on a Sunday morning at church. And so that was kind of like a special moment for me, being like this little kid who wrote a song, but yet my worship leader like wanted to use it on a Sunday morning, and like had the whole band and everything. Like, it was really cool. So
you had the whole band do
it?
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
it was
awesome.
really special.
What a cool thing. That's unique. I don't think I started writing until I was like 17, 16. So you've been writing, how old are you?
21.
Oh, math. I started writing, I've been writing like 10 years.
12.
You've been, okay. So yeah. Yep. But by the time you're 26, you'll have been writing for 17 years. Yep. It's a long time.
Cool.
Did you start playing piano before that?
Yeah, I think I was like 6 when I started getting really serious about it with my mom, who was my piano teacher. But I would mess around with it before then. So, but 6 was like the start.
Now, like when you started playing, I've always wondered, because I wanted to play young. Like I really did. But I did not have the like discipline or I think with guitar, it was like the one with playing acoustic was the first thing I tried, which was, I mean, I thought it was a mistake, but mostly just because it hurt like to play acoustic guitar as like a little kid. And I was like, this hurts my hand.
Yeah.
Did you find like, where did the discipline kind of come from to like play that much that young? Was it just like a thing you had to do? Was it like you wanted to?
I think I loved music enough that I wanted to play piano. But the discipline really came from my mom being a piano teacher, and like, you know, knowing that this was a skill that me wanting to be a musician later should have. I didn't get it. I didn't know how Mary Had a Little Lamb would like help at all.
Yeah.
So the discipline came from that, but the desire was always there. But learning in that way was kind of a challenge for me, but it was good. Cool.
Yeah. I think for me, the person that taught me to play guitar literally was very, it's funny. I think about it and I'm like, I don't know if I had the discipline, even at like 13, 14, when she started teaching me when I would play stuff wrong, she'd be like, you're playing wrong and you suck.
Oh,
like she'd be like,
that's really sad.
Like you're playing it poor. That's terrible. Like, you know, there would be like some severe commentary on my, either if I did a good job, I got praise or whatever. But then like when I was doing really bad, like there was no sparing like my feelings or anything like that, which I think actually did help me by the time I did learn it. Yeah, something like that. So that kind of, I want to transition. What do you think, it sounds like your mom to some degree was a big influence, but what do you think some of your like biggest influences in your music / songwriting, whatever you want to talk about?
I think like on a personal level, the worship leader that I mentioned before, she was always great about encouraging me as a kid to dive into music and dive into ministry. And she never like looked at me as if I was young, and always treated me as a growing leader. And I think that's something that has always really like motivated me. On a less personal level, from like a piano songwriting level, Jenna Rain is actually someone that I've recently discovered that's been influencing me a lot. She is like TikTok famous or whatever, and she writes incredible lyrics, and she's really great at telling a story and really diving into the emotion of situations. And so she's been someone that's been inspiring me a lot lately. And then from like a worship perspective, Tiffany Hammer with, I think she's Hudson now, but with Elevation Worship, I think the way that she stewards the songs that she sings is really powerful. The spontaneous worship that she does always enhances the song and never takes away. And so those are some people that I aspire to grow in the way they have. So
I like the idea from a ministry perspective. Anyway, I really like the idea of treating people as growing leaders. That's a cool like take. Did you come up with that yourself, or is that something that somebody told you?
I don't know.
Because it's totally valuable. You know what I mean? Like from a ministry perspective, the idea of being a growing leader. I think a lot of people don't. I personally, this is not where I was planning to go with this, but this is how it works, right? For me, like in ministry, like I or in life, honestly, like I was always like, I don't want to be a role model. I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to be like, I just want to do what I want to do kind of thing for a long, long time. Whether that was be behind the scenes or play or whatever. And we're talking, 16, 17, 18, kind of through like early 20s, like 21, 22, before I think I really had a concept for not even deciding to lead. It was more like deciding I should lead if God's asking me to, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, like I should say yes if it's being asked of me, but I never really wanted it. So I like that idea.
I didn't either. I never wanted to be leader. I had a couple.
Yeah, I think we're different here. The two of us and you, we never her dad talk like, what was, growing up being a leader.
I had a couple mentors. Yeah, my dad was a worship pastor for the longest time, and now he's a lead pastor of a church, and he was always encouraging me to do it, and I was like, no, I'm shy. I don't want to like, I love being backup. I love helping, but I don't want to ever do anything more than that. And then I had a couple mentors that basically shoved me. They were like, do it. You're going to be good at it. Yeah. Like, go do it. And I remember I wouldn't join the youth band at all. I was like, I'm too shy. I don't want to do it. And so my dad took something I had recorded.
Which it sounds ridiculously good, by the way. I've heard this recording.
Yeah.
Snuck around me and showed it to my youth pastor, my youth worship leader while they were at my house for like some party. He like snuck them away into his office and showed them. And then they were like, yeah, you can join the band. And I was like, I didn't have a say in it, but I'm obviously glad they did or whatnot. But
for me, it was like stage fright right away, which I didn't even, we said this on the show last week, but one of the first, when I started learning guitar, it was because my friend had asked me to be in a talent show to play, and she was going to play, and I was going to play either, I don't remember, I think it was a song, it was an Anne Boleyn song, and I learned like half the parts. And I remember like getting through and recognizing like, oh, I'm actually getting to the place where like I might be able to do this. And it scared the heck out of me. Like I was like, I don't want to, the idea of like having people watch what I do, it never sat well with me. And so I think I naturally shrunk back from the idea of being a worship leader or being on stage even. I never handled like gigs or just, I don't really consider them this way, but I think young I did, or it was easy to worry about it from the perspective of performance, which I don't think is proper in church anyway. But I think at 16, that's what you're worried about. Like, you're worried about how am I going to look? How do I act? What do I do with myself? Yeah. Those kinds of things were kind of difficult things for me. So let's ask this. How would you describe the music that you like making?
That's a really good question. I think it can be kind of eclectic. I think especially because I've started getting a little bit more serious about making music and I can't decide how I want it to sound fully. It's definitely worship based. Every single song that I write points back to the Lord no matter what. So singer-songwriter, I guess. I don't know. It's just kind of whatever the Lord leads me to write. Yeah, it's still developing.
Yeah, we've definitely heard some behind the scenes tracks like here and there in your stuff. And like I've noticed little like incorporations of maybe like the right word is like some pop elements, like
a little bit,
as in like a couple newer kind of instruments or things that aren't like physically like acoustically recorded. We've definitely heard you like add some stuff into that. I know vocally, like I've certainly the one that we're working on right now that you are working on here, I know we've talked a lot about like incorporating more harmony and some things like that into it. I really love that your music is piano led. I think that's super unique. And even when you look at like when I think like in today's culture, right, and not exactly where I'm looking to, like I don't think that's necessarily the pop is the focus here, but like when I think who are the artists that lead on piano, it's like I know their names. It's Adele, it's Sarah Bareilles, it's the guy from Coldplay, Chris Martin, is that his name?
Yes.
Who, like, you know, those people for whatever reason, just I know that that's what they lead on, and so it kind of stands out. I don't know why, I just think it does, and I think it kind of naturally delineates their music from other people, right? Like Coldplay is a rock band, kind of. I don't know, they've bordered between like singer-songwriter, pop, and rock.
They've had so many albums.
Yeah, it's hard when you go through that.
At a certain point, you know, people like John Mayer, Coldplay, like these bands that have been around for literally ever, they kind of, you know, at a certain point take a little bit of all genres.
Alicia Keys is another one. John Legend is another one that plays piano really well. Like those are people that when I think about their music, they're automatically delineated just because they play a different thing and they're leading from a different spot. And I think I've always really loved the uniqueness that creates in a song. And I definitely think yours carries that. So when it comes to music for you, I'm going to move to the next question. That way I don't get us stuck here. When it comes to music to you, what's important about it? What would you say what does it mean to you? And what would you say the most important thing about music is to you?
I think for me, the most important thing about music is the message, the thing that you're saying in that song, which even you can have a message in songs without lyrics. But if people ask me, like, what kind of artists do you like to listen to? It's really whoever has something important to say. Music that's not just telling a story for the sake of telling a story, but telling the story for the sake of affecting someone else. I think that's been especially important for me, especially as a musician and a ministry leader, is being able to use my music to affect people and their stories.
It's a good one. Yeah, we, I think, knowing you and knowing like, I mean, like I'll talk to you at like certain points and I'll be like, have you heard this song? And it's like a song that in my mind, like everyone's heard. And you're like, nope, I haven't heard it. And it's because like, I think a large focus, and I'm just trying to give context for people to understand. I think a large focus of music for you has been worship leading, right? I mean, I think when I talk to you, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe like you've said, like most of what you listen to is worship music, right? Yeah. Like outside of just church and stuff. So let's do this. Top 3 like worship artists.
Okay.
Because I don't listen. So we're the opposite in this way. I don't listen to any worship. Like outside of, I have one album. I'm getting ready to buy it physical because literally every time I put it on, I'm like in tears. It's Of Dirt and Grace. It's the acoustic album, and that's the only worship record I put on like ever. That's my favorite. One. So
I forgot about that one.
Top 3.
Oh gosh. I think Mav City definitely is like at the top, just because I love how their music isn't just. I think they're kind of bringing the worship realm of music out of, we had kind of gotten stuck in a rut, I felt like.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to be able to see such music like bring us to life again and bring more scripture into it and still be like rooted in scripture and yet so like entertaining as
very
well,
fresh.
you know?
Yeah, it's very fresh to a large group of churches. And I believe that were kind of like, maybe like early 2000s was like the beginning of like that wave of like modern Christian, and it went forever. It's like the same guitar parts reworked in different ways. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Okay, so number 2.
Number 2 would probably be Elevation, and also Mav City and Elevation together. It's just unstoppable. Yeah. And then I think I'm gonna split the third one between Vertical Worship and the Gettys, which is kind of a weird split, but Vertical Worship is more like modern worship, and they kind of inspired me when I was younger. And then the Gettys, I just love their outlook on music and how it affects a congregation as a whole, and it's something that I want to remind myself of.
They have like a conference or something.
Yep.
Tell me, what is that? Because I've never really. You tell us you're going every year, but we don't know what it is.
There's so much to it. It's a very large group of people that go, and there's so many different breakouts, but essentially their focus, so they're modern hymn writers, and their focus is to teach leaders in the church, not just worship leaders, about inspiring your congregation to worship, not just in the context of church, but also in their homes, and how you are conscious about telling the full gospel in your worship sets. They have songwriting breakouts and like Q&A. It's really, really special time. And it's cool because it's a type of music that I don't usually like. It's not my go-to to listen to because like modern hymns just isn't my vibe all the time. But I have such a huge appreciation for it. And it's really cool to be able to go into that context and be in like this large room with thousands of people just like worshiping to old hymns, new hymns. There's just something really unique and special about it.
I get scoffed at all the time because I'm literally a pastor's kid. Never listened to hymns growing up because my dad was a worship pastor. So I listened to Chris Tomlin and Tommy Walker and Israel Houghton and all these people that he was singing on Sunday. God's Great, like stuff like that. And so like a hymn will come on, and if it's not Amazing Grace or Come Thou Fount, they're like, you don't know this? I'm like,
I grew up with the hymnal in hand for sure. My grandfather was a Southern Baptist pastor in Berryessa, near like San Jose, the Bay Area and stuff. And then I believe it's Berryessa. I don't know. Maybe it was Milpitas. I can't remember. And then my grandmother was the piano player. Aww. So they were kind of, I don't know. I realize now looking back in life, like we mirror them way more than I ever thought we would. But like, here we are working at church, husband and wife, like every week, that kind of thing. And so I definitely grew up with an example of a relationship doing that. But every week was, I remember my grandma would sit there and play. And my grandpa would literally, like during the altar call, he would like pace back and forth along like the front and like wait for people to come down. And like, it was interesting. It's such a vivid memory. And the hymnal, I remember like for maybe like 4 to 6 years, not really caring about opening it. And then at a certain point, like I was like, oh, the words to the songs are in here. Got it. Like I didn't know, like it didn't dawn on me that like if I wanted to sing along, like all I had to do was open the book and find the right page. I don't, maybe that's just me. But I would say that school and or like intuitiveness is not necessarily my strong suit. So it never dawned on me that the words would be in the book. And I figured it out. But by the time I did, I really loved hymns. Definitely have a special place in my heart. I know when we play them, they kind of take me back. Like I remember my grandpa's favorite ones. I remember specific songs we used to play when I was a kid at church all the time. And so I tend to think of like in an endearing way. I don't even mean anything bad by it. I tend to think of my grandparents when we start playing hymns, and those are good times and happy memories. So let's ask a couple questions about just like artistry. This is a good one. What's the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome as an artist? Like, what's something that's challenged you?
I think this probably isn't the biggest, but this is the one that's coming to mind right now, is as an artist, finding the balance between promoting myself for the sake of spreading the word about my songs and seeing that as a ministry as well, versus just trying to like let it happen. Because I think for a while, as I was growing into this idea of being an artist and releasing music, I had a huge problem with promoting myself or telling people about my music. It felt very self-centered and self-focused. But it's been really cool this past year, after jumping over that and still diving into promoting, being able to see like how what God is teaching me right here in Fort Mill, South Carolina, can actually like spread to the Philippines or United Arab Emirates or China, or like all of these places that I might not ever go in my lifetime. And so being able to balance that as a ministry and not see it as so focused about me, and being able to use that as just trying to reach people and share my story with them. Yeah,
I know we've certainly met a lot of other people, I think in the church specifically, that definitely worry about kind of the self-promotion side of things. I think it's just kind of nerve-wracking anyway. and then two, it does feel, and I don't think necessarily that's without good reason. There's a little bit of weight to sort of, okay, like if I am going to do this, like I want to do it the right way, the way that like honors God, or however you want to look at that. I definitely think about that when I'm kind of moving in and throughout. And gosh, we release secular musics at the same time as
it's nerve-wracking even not in a ministry.
Yeah, my personal walk with that has been really feeling led that for me, I never identified with Christian music as a kid growing up. I still really, other than when I'm actively looking to spend time in worship, I still really don't. I'm 9 out of 10. We had a guy in here the other day, and I had a metal playlist running, and he was like pretty shocked that he was like, "Oh, that's a great song too,"
Yeah.
But I love that. Like that created an opportunity for me to sit and talk with him, and he's going to be over at our house later today. And like, there's for me, there's that, there's also some use, and I see I feel a personal leading to kind of be in that gap where, but it makes it difficult. Like, and I think it's kind of the same thing, you could stay in the church, but in reality, being out in the world and being a worship leader is probably more, I don't want to use the word dangerous because that's not really what I mean, but you're more on display, you're more able to be critiqued than if you just stayed in the church forever. And I think that in a way that's a similar challenge. You're talking about not just keeping the things that God gave you to yourself. You're talking about going and putting them on display. And then it's like, okay, that opens you up, that's a cool one. That's a good one. I think that's probably, that's common in, I think, any age group, but I think especially in like the young worship leaders age group, that's a common thing. But when you're talking about like challenges as an artist, does that ever happen to you in the writing process? Like where you have a issue writing, or where you're looking for inspiration, or have there been any challenges like in your songwriting specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. Writer's block is definitely a completely real thing. And sometimes you just kind of have to flow with it. God has actually really been challenging me lately that I've been writing for the sake of releasing. And, the songs that I have released from the Prodigal EP, I think the thing that was special about those is that, maybe the last 2 songs that I wrote for it were writing for the sake of releasing, but a lot of them were just moments with the Lord. And I think that's partially what made them so special. And so I've been trying to get back into really being focused on just having these moments with the Lord and just kind of talking me and him. And if he leads me to share it, to do so. But as far as like a songwriting process, it all kind of comes at once. Yeah. It starts with a prayer, and I kind of get this feeling in my chest that the Lord wants me to sit down at the piano and do something. And then it all just kind of like barfs out.
Yeah. So I've watched you sit in the back of like like during like a rehearsal or something, and you're like typing away like full speed, and now like you get done, you're like,
Yeah, we
here's
were like, are you working
got
on
all the,
homework? You're like, no, I'm
like with no, and
I
it's
was supposed to be doing
we're not
homework.
like we're not like this either, which is like more you write at least that one time I'm referencing, I think you wrote like the whole lyrics. You didn't have an instrument on you. Did you even have a melody in your head, or was it just like a straight up lyric thing?
I had, and I brought it home and really wanted to rework it, and I actually still need to. So I think, yeah, there's been sometimes, there's this one song that I wrote that I actually wrote on a plane and wasn't allowed to like make a ton of noise.
Well, it's
and
like,
I was,
so you told me the verse that you did on Jonah's song, So Good, you wrote that during a shift at a coffee shop?
yeah, I was at work.
That's a unique thing. Like I could not do that. You were
Yeah, I couldn't do
walking,
that.
like it was in your head and you're just like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Because that verse is insanely good. I remember when, did you send it to us or did it just come out and we
I
heard
think
it?
it just came out.
And I was like, I just remember being like, wow, that is insanely cool. And yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. Look it up. So Good by Jonah Green. I almost combined the names. And Rebecca Lauren. Do you want to read a couple questions so that I'm not reading all the questions?
So you mentioned Prodigal
Okay.
in your last answer. Tell us about what that EP was like, both writing and recording. That process was for you.
I think from like the writing standpoint, it definitely started out with a couple songs that after a while I kind of realized the theme kind of meshed a little bit. The first couple that I wrote were very personal to me, but then I was kind of walking through with a friend who was struggling with their relationship with the Lord, and the whole idea of like God pursuing us even when we struggle to pursue him was just like always on the forefront of my mind. And so all of my songs just kind of pointed towards that. And then I decided that I wanted to record a full EP out of those songs. And so the Lord really started like pouring out those songs, which was really, really cool. From a recording aspect, it was a huge learning curve because like
Just a little bit.
we had done singles together, Dear Abigail and Hope is Born. But this was like a really big project to be able to try to get done in how many months? It's like 6.
I don't know. I
wasn't
think
that
it was
long.
more like, it was somewhere between 6 and 8. Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. So it was just a really big project, and, you know, bringing together 6 songs and arranging them with you. You did most of the arranging, which was
Nah.
amazing.
I did-
Oh my gosh, you did such a great job.
It takes the song to arrange anything. So, you know.
So it was cool. It was definitely a great time. I know for me and my boyfriend Corbin to be able to build a relationship with you guys as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a really special, I think for all of us involved, that's a special part of it for sure. That's like one of my favorite parts about working on records with people is you just, it's like good and bad. Like you end up spending like a lot of time and I feel like to some degree, I don't ever feel bothered, but I feel like I bother people sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, man, people are around while I'm doing what I'm doing anyway. Like, cause I'm always in a studio making a record. So I love it when people are like as heavily involved in the process as you guys were, especially so Corbin, it looked a lot like kind of, we were working a lot on singing, I think was the biggest thing that he was in the studio for, and doing harmony parts and stuff like that. So I got to spend like a good amount of time with him there. And then obviously he kind of came on board and interned with us at the church. But for you, it was a lot of, I think, I know you said it was me, but like a lot of arrangement choices, I think were really valuable coming from you for that first record. I think being able to hear, and I think just recognize in my head, like when you play piano, I don't know if there's such a thing, but you are the equivalent of like a lead piano player as opposed to like a rhythm piano player. Like as in, some people play lead guitar, some people don't. That's how it translates in my head. Like you certainly have an ear and a mindset for creating melody and kind of not just sort of chording your way through the track on piano. And so trying to blend that with guitar work and with the rest of the instrumentation and still kind of let it be the center point was a really unique thing that I thought was a cool kind of challenge to get to do together, which was a cool one.
What's your favorite song off?
Yeah.
that album?
Let's go around the table. What's your favorite? Everybody pick.
Probably Battle Torn. I think because I'm really happy with between Battle Torn and Foundations. Honestly, I think Foundations, from an arrangement standpoint, that one's my favorite just because there's so much in it.
It is a fun song.
And then Battle Torn's more stripped back, but the message is something that I connect most with. So
I think either Prodigal or Foundations. I don't know.
Prodigal or Foundations?
Yeah, I mean, Prodigal I'm partial to because I got to be on that one, and I like that one. But I really like Foundations when that one came out too.
Yeah, Foundations is sort of like if you're doing a dry listen through the album and you're only going to hear it once, I think Foundations is probably the one you get hooked on because it has a lot of things that are just like for the passing by listener. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there's things to grab your attention that I think eventually pull you into the lyrics, but sometimes, at least for me, when you're just listening, sometimes if you're driving or, you know, it comes on Spotify or like whatever, you're not exactly like, oh, let me just sit and like focus on every word. I think Foundations does a good job of grabbing attention.
Yeah.
My favorite, I don't know. Battle Torn is one of my favorites for sure. I was so nervous to do that song. We tracked cello.
Oh yeah.
So at this point, we had not opened the studio yet, and we were tracking the cello in a room in my house. There's a back office or whatever, and I literally recognized like
in all the windows.
How resonant a cello is. It's very loud, and it basically like causes everything in the room. Like if you had a snare drum in the room, the snare drum would rumble because of the cello vibrating basically everything.
You were so happy when that came out. Good.
I was. And I probably spent like an hour or more just trying to tape up windows and just get as much deadening in the room as possible. Cause I was like, okay, this has to come out good. We're only going to have like one day, one take, you know, well, 3 takes, but the guy who did it, I mean, he killed it. Levi, he was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, how much time do we have? We have time for like 1 or 2 more. Okay, so let's go with this one. What is something you hope to accomplish with your music / I don't want to call it a career because I know that we're talking about sort of
ministry,
not necessarily making it careers at certain points, but like in your music career, in your ministry, with your writing, what's something you want to accomplish or see happen?
I really honestly just want to just build a relationship with people. Even the people that listen to my music. I think I really want to learn how to not focus, as you said, so much on a career or like big goals like that. Because I do believe that when you focus on the people that God's placed in your life through your ministry, the rest kind of just naturally happens. That's what I found so far. And from all my mentors, they've all said the same thing. So honestly, I just want to meet a lot of people and pray that my songs just really touch them. If that's a lot of people or a little bit of people, just being grateful for where the Lord has put me.
Yeah. So. Okay, 2 more. What's the best advice you can give to a new artist or musician, songwriter?
Going back to relationships, surround yourself with people like this. Just people that... I know, all the feels. I just, looking back on my life, I think I wouldn't have naturally become the worship leader, songwriter, and artist that I am today if it wasn't for the people that believed in me and actually took time to not only encourage me, but also challenge me in those things. So for upcoming songwriters or worship leaders or whatever, just make sure you have people that know better than you and love you, and surround yourself with them and be willing to learn from them and be corrected and encourage them back, because they're pretty special.
Yeah, I think it's pretty valuable finding someone that will build you up but not like puff you up, like you don't want you don't need the ego boost, but finding people that will encourage you.
Well, and healthily anyway, knock you down, if you know what I mean. Like you need that too of like, hey, like I told the story last week, like one of the first times I showed up to a church without chord charts, they told me not to play. Like they were like, yeah, if you don't know the songs, like don't worry about it. We'll be all right. Like you got to come prepared. Come prepared. And I remember feeling like so terrible. I was like, oh gosh, it's over. Like, that, but it wasn't, I mean, I don't even really remember how it was handled. I think I was more focused on like feeling bad as a kid, but I think looking back now, I'm super thankful for that.
You always come prepared.
They weren't overly mean, not as much as I don't ever feel prepared
90%
enough.
of the time you come prepared.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's ask this, because what's the song that you're planning to perform, and what's it about?
So the song I'm going to be singing is called Burden. And it's really kind of about anxiety in the form of overthinking. Lately, I've been trying to really write songs that are super honest about things that real people deal with, very specific situations. And overthinking my relationships was one of them. And I really wanted to walk through the idea of like, how do I process that healthily with the Lord? And so it's just kind of about how I used to think that thinking the worst in people sometimes of their intentions was a way of like protecting myself and not getting hurt, when really it was keeping me from stepping into the godly community and into godly relationship that God calls us to. Like God calls us to be in community with people, and to allow ourselves to be vulnerable with people too. And so it was just kind of a song about coming to that conclusion that I really need to fight to trust people a little bit more, especially the people that God has very specifically placed in my life, and to believe that the Lord is in them and the Lord is in me, and that's something we have in common, and we can love each other through that.
Are you sure you're only 20? You know what I mean? Like when people talk and you're like, okay, clearly that was extremely wise. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So it's called Burden, right?
Burden.
Burden. Awesome. And is this the first time people get to hear it? I mean, I think there was like an Instagram clip somewhere.
I posted something on TikTok a little bit, but it was just half
But
the
this
song.
is like the full thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an exclusive, technically, at least for now. Becca, it's been great having you here. Thank you for being a part of it. We're super excited to hear and get to bring you guys this song. And we hope you enjoy it. And we're going to wrap it up here.
Sweet. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
What you say and what I hear are worlds apart. A living fantasies designed to protect my heart. When you say that you can't make it, I hear that I'm not worth it. If you tell me that you love me, I hear that I'm just a burden to you. 'Cause I'm overthinking in circles, jump to conclusions, leaping hurdles, can't break the cycle. I just wanna know the truth. Am I just a burden to you? I never wanna get too close, 'cause you might see the parts I shouldn't show. Don't wanna hope for more this time, so I'll just let love pass me by. I know the devil wants to isolate my soul, devising plans to make my heart a heart of stone. So God, I'm taking every chance to let your children through the cracks, break my walls like Jericho once again. 'Cause I'm overthinking in circles, jump to conclusions, leaping hurdles. God, break the cycle, finally let me know the truth, that I'm not a burden to you. Lord, help me see the things you see, your spirit in them and you and me. I wanna hope for more this time, so I don't let love pass me by. I've been overthinking in circles, jump to conclusions, conclusions, leaping hurdles. God break